We are picking up the pace a lot, and now we are in step 26. In this step, we would be using Bootstrap to format and add HTML validations to the to-do page. If you remember it right, we formatted the list to-dos page, but we have not formatted the actual to-do, add to-do page. So let's do that. And we also add in a little bit of HTML5 validations in there to understand how you can do validations with HTML5. And in the next steps, we would talk a couple of things about JSR 349 validations. We would be using something called Hibernate Validator, and also we'll add the functionality to update it to do, and then we would add the target date to the to-do page as well. So there are a sequence of steps that are ready for you. Let's start with step 26 right now. What do we want to do in this page? We want to format the add to do page. So the add to do page right now is not really well formatted, right? I mean, when I click add here, this is the page which comes up. Not really attractive. So let's format that a little bit and also add HTML5 validation. So if I click add, it just sends some empty thing down, and that's not really good. So let's add validations for that as well. So let's do those two things in this step. I've opened up the todo.jsp. Right now we have this in here. So as with any Bootstrap page, I would start with adding a div around the page. So div class is equal to container. Let's start with this. Refresh the page to see, yeah, there's a little bit of formatting that's happened because of the container. That's good. I'd want to format this form with Bootstrap. So what I would want to actually say is this is good description. So now you'd see the description is this and add button after that. So that's good. This is actually called a label. So I'll put it in a label tag. So a label is something which is giving the description, which is giving a name to the field next to it. So now I've put in a label. So this is how usually your elements are organized. So you have a label and then you have the element, and you'd have such sequence of elements. Here we just have the description, but we can have a lot more things, right? I mean, we can have the target date, we can have the to-do ID shown to the user and things like that. So all of them would go next to this. So the way usually the form elements are organized is there would be a label and there would be the element. Label, element, label, element. And these kind of things are what are called field sets. So you can type in field and there's something called field set. So this is kind of a combination. So this is the field set. So now this is a field set and input type is equal to submit, value is equal to add. So we have a field set for description field and we have the submit button. Let's format the page. Oops, not this one. This one. There is a little bit of formatting which is coming in for the description field, but we would want to make use of the Bootstrap formatting, which would look a lot more better. The way we would format a form using Bootstrap is by adding a class on the field set. The name of the class is form-group. Let's go ahead and refresh the page. Not a lot of change yet. And the second thing we need to do is to add in class is equal to form-control. There is not a lot of change happening even though I'm adding the forms in. You see that I'm not really loading the CSS and the JavaScript files belonging to Bootstrap, and that's the reason why we have this problem. Let's quickly add them in. We need to add the CSS. Let's add the CSS file in here in the head, and let's add the JavaScript files that we would need in just before the closing body tag. So that's good. Now let's see. Okay, there you go. So now you have added to do formatted really well with a description with everything in there. So this is a much better to do page than earlier. The thing which we missed to do was adding the references to the Bootstrap CSS, Bootstrap JS and the jQuery JS. So now that we added them in, this looks much better. The only thing which needs a further bit of formatting is the add link. So I'll say class is equal to is a button, and I would want to call this button success because I want this to appear as if it's a good thing to do, adding a to do. So there you go. So now you have the add to do page formatted really well, and I can now learn to write quality code, and that's added in. So that's very good. but still the other problem exists. So now I press enter, it sends an empty thing in. I want to prevent that from happening. There are a lot of HTML5 validations which are present on a field. So you can add a lot of HTML5 validations on a field. What we'll add is a simple HTML5 validation called required. So I'll say required is equal to required on the description field. So this means it's a required thing. So let's see what would happen. I'm refreshing the page and pressing enter. Now you get a message saying please fill out this field. Okay, let's take a moment out here and talk about validations a little bit. The thing is, any front-end validations that you do, you can skip them easily. I mean, that's what hackers do. So if you just have a front-end validation and don't have a validation on the back end, the hackers can right-click, edit the form using a lot of tools which are there, and they can send the form directly out. So even though there is a validation, so this is for a normal user. A normal user will not be able to get past it because he doesn't know how to use things like a post sender and things like that to send a post request. But a hacker would have complete idea of it. So this front-end validation should not be the only thing that we should be doing. We should add a little bit of back-end validations as well. We should add validations on the back end to prevent user from being able to enter a wrong data. I mean, even hackers should not be able to send the wrong data in. But what we have built in here is kind of a very, very, very basic validation, which is good for now. But in a later step, we would really add back-end validations as well. So now we press enter. It will not allow me to enter anything without a description. So now I can go ahead and do this. So I'll go ahead and delete it. And from now on, from the front end, if you do it through the proper form, then you'll not be able to enter an empty description because that particular field is now defined as required in the HTML form. So this is a very, very, very simple HTML5 validation. In this step, we looked at one of the HTML5 validations, which is required. But there are a lot of other validations which are present in HTML5. You can specify a min value, a max value. There's a new type called number. So usually we use type is equal to text, but you can even say type is equal to number. And you can specify the min and the max also. So that's basically the 18 and 99. So you can only enter values between 18 and 99. And also you can specify a pattern. So when there's a text field, you can say I want to only allow entering values of this particular pattern, and you can use these patterns for a date field or a amount field and things like that. So there are a lot of validations which are in HTML5 which can be used. And in this specific video, in this specific step, we looked at how to use the validations of required. In this short step, we formatted the add to do page and we added a simple HTML5 form validation.